Why would a prince, born into unimaginable luxury, abandon his palace, his family, and his throne? What could possibly drive someone who had everything to walk away from it all? This is the story of Siddhartha Gautama, an extraordinary journey that began not with grand battles or political upheaval, but with 4 simple, yet life-altering encounters. Siddhartha was no ordinary prince. Raised in opulence, shielded from suffering, he lived a life of comfort designed to keep him from ever questioning the world outside his palace walls. His father, the king, ensured that no pain, sickness, or struggle ever reached him. But destiny had other plans. One fateful day, Siddhartha ventured beyond the confines of his sheltered existence. What he saw changed everything. For encounters, an old man, a sick person, a dead body, and a wandering monk, shattered his illusions about life. These moments planted a seed of doubt, of deeper inquiry, of transformation. In this video, we'll unravel these pivotal events, uncovering the profound truths behind Siddhartha's realization. More than just ancient history, his journey holds deep meaning even today, helping us reflect on our own lives and search for something beyond material wealth. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and comment if this story resonates with you. And of course, hit that subscribe button to stay connected with our journey into wisdom and enlightenment. 1. The first encounter, the truth of impermanence. Siddhartha Gautama had known only beauty, vitality, and abundance. His father, King Siddhartha, ensured that the young prince lived a life untouched by sorrow. No signs of aging, sickness, or death were ever allowed near him. The palace shimmered with gold, the gardens flourished in perpetual bloom. Yet, on one fateful day, Siddhartha's carefully crafted world began to unravel. As his chariot rolled through the bustling streets outside the palace walls, Siddhartha noticed an unfamiliar figure, a man, bent and weary. His skin was thin and wrinkled, his hands trembled as he clung to a wooden staff for support. Each step seemed an immense effort. His back hunched forward, carrying the weight of time itself. Siddhartha turned to Channa, his loyal charioteer. "Who is this man?" he asked, his voice tinged with concern. "He is old, my lord," Channa replied. "All people who live long enough will look like him. None can escape aging." The word struck Siddhartha like a thunderbolt. Until that moment, he had never considered that youth was fleeting, that every strong, healthy body would one day bend under the burden of years. Impermanence was no longer just a concept, it was a truth unfolding before his very eyes. The realization of impermanence, a shift in perspective. The vision of the old man haunted Siddhartha. He replayed the moment over and over in his mind. In the golden halls of his palace, he saw reflections of his own youthful face, but suddenly, they seemed deceptive. Would he, too, one day grow frail? Would his limbs weaken, his beauty fade, his strength diminish? For the first time, Siddhartha felt the deep dukkha, the suffering that arises from the transient nature of life. He understood that impermanence, anicca, was not selective, it came for kings and commoners alike. It was woven into the fabric of existence. He wandered the palace that night, troubled. How had he lived so long without recognizing this truth? Could happiness truly exist in a world where everything inevitably changes? A soft transition, the questions that begin the journey. This encounter was more than just a passing observation, it was a turning point. The moment Siddhartha saw the old man, a question was born within him: if aging is inevitable, then what is the meaning of life? It was a quiet, lingering question, but its weight grew with each breath. The walls of his palace could no longer shield him from reality. He had glimpsed a fundamental truth, one that no wealth or privilege could undo. This realization, however, was only the beginning. There were more encounters to come, each revealing a deeper layer of existence, each bringing him closer to the path of renunciation and enlightenment. 2. The encounter with suffering, a profound awakening. Siddhartha Gautama had always known comfort. Every waking moment of his life had been carefully curated, shielded from pain, insulated from sorrow. His father, King Siddhartha, ensured the palace remained a sanctuary, where no sickness, aging, or suffering could reach the young prince. But no amount of privilege could keep the truth of existence hidden forever. One day, as his golden chariot rolled through the bustling streets of Kapilavastu, Siddhartha saw something that shattered his world. Among the crowd, a man lay trembling, his body weak, his breath labored. His face was twisted in agony, his limbs frail. His skin, once smooth, was now sallow and marked with signs of relentless illness. The sight was unlike anything Siddhartha had ever encountered. His heart clenched. "What is wrong with this man?" he asked the charioteer. The response was simple, yet devastating. "He is sick, my lord. Illness is a natural part of life. The inevitability of pain." Siddhartha's mind raced. Until that moment, sickness had been a mere concept, something distant and theoretical. But now, before his eyes, suffering was undeniable. It was raw, real, unavoidable. He observed the man closely, noticing the sheer vulnerability of the human condition. The body, once strong and full of vitality, was now fragile and failing. His hands clutched his chest in pain, his eyes pleaded for relief. Siddhartha could not look away. Was this the fate of all beings? Would every person, no matter their status, one day crumble under the weight of sickness? Would he, too, suffer in this way? For the first time, a deep sorrow filled his heart, not for himself, but for all beings. His sheltered life had not prepared him for this truth. He had been raised to believe that happiness lay in material wealth, power, and pleasure. But here, in front of him, was a man stripped of all earthly attachments, held captive by suffering alone. The cause of suffering, a question that could not be ignored. The encounter was brief, yet its impact was irreversible. Siddhartha returned to the palace, his mind consumed with questions. Why do people suffer? Is suffering a punishment, or is it simply the nature of life? Can suffering be escaped, or must it be endured? He sought answers from scholars, priests, and advisors, but their responses were hollow. None could explain why suffering seemed woven into the very fabric of existence. The teachings of the time attributed suffering to fate, karma, or divine intervention. Some said illness was caused by impurities of the body, others claimed it was the result of past misdeeds. But to Siddhartha, these explanations felt incomplete. He knew there had to be a deeper truth, something beyond superstition or tradition. A turning point, the seed of compassion. Though troubled, Siddhartha also felt something new awakening within him, compassion. For the first time, his pain was not merely personal. It was a shared human experience, one that connected him to all beings. Suffering did not discriminate. It did not respect wealth, power, or lineage. Even the strongest, most virtuous, and most beloved would one day fall ill. He realized then that happiness built on temporary pleasures was an illusion. If sickness, aging, and death were inevitable, then what was the point of clinging to worldly attachments? The encounter with the sick man was more than a lesson, it was a warning. A realization that life's fleeting joys were only a mask, hiding the deeper truth of impermanence. Transitioning to the next encounter. Siddhartha could not ignore what he had witnessed. His mind was restless, his heart heavy. But the universe had more to show him, an even harsher reality awaited. If sickness revealed the fragility of the human body, what would he learn about death itself? 3. The third encounter, confronting mortality. Siddhartha Gautama had witnessed aging and illness, each revelation shaking the foundation of what he thought life was. Yet nothing prepared him for what came next, the realization that every living being, without exception, must eventually face death. This truth was not abstract or distant, it was raw, irreversible, and undeniable. On another journey outside the palace, Siddhartha's chariot suddenly slowed. The streets, usually alive with chatter and commerce, had fallen eerily silent. Then he saw it, a solemn procession moving through the crowded thoroughfare. Men dressed in mourning carried a lifeless body, wrapped in cloth. Their faces were etched with grief, their steps measured, heavy with sorrow. The air was thick with the sound of wailing. Siddhartha turned to Channa, his charioteer. What has happened? Why do these people cry? Channa's voice was somber. My lord, this is death. This man has passed away, and his family mourns his loss. One day, all beings must face this fate. No one can escape it. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Death. The end of all things. Siddhartha's eyes remained fixed on the lifeless figure, a person who, perhaps only days ago, had laughed, dreamed, and loved. Now, that life had dissolved into silence, leaving only echoes of memory. A moment of awakening, the fragility of life. Suddenly, all the grandeur of his palace felt insignificant. The gardens, the feasts, the soft silk of his robes, what did they mean if one day, he too, would be carried away in silence? Siddhartha had believed in permanence, in a world where happiness and youth could last. But now he understood that nothing, neither wealth, power, nor love, could stop the passage of time. The realization of impermanence, anicca, struck deeply. It was not just an individual fate, but a universal one. Kings and beggars, the strong and the weak, the wise and the foolish, all must face death. Mara, the great illusion, convinces us to chase pleasure, ambition, and security, making us forget that life is as fleeting as a candle's flame in the wind. Yet this understanding was not only despair, it was a call to awaken. If life was fragile and temporary, then what was its true purpose? If dukkha, suffering, was inevitable, then where could one find lasting peace? A soft transition, the seeds of renunciation. Siddhartha could no longer ignore the truths unfolding before him. Aging, sickness, and now death, they formed the foundation of existence, yet few ever stopped to question them. As his chariot moved forward, leaving the funeral procession behind, Siddhartha knew he could never unsee what he had witnessed. There was something beyond the cycle of birth and death, beyond suffering. And he would not stop searching until he found it. This realization, however, was only another step. Soon, he would encounter a monk, a man who had chosen a life dedicated to seeking freedom from suffering. And that meeting would solidify his path toward enlightenment. 4. The encounter with the monk, a path to liberation. Siddhartha Gautama had witnessed three profound truths: aging, sickness, and death. Each revelation had pierced through his once sheltered reality, stripping away the illusion of permanence. But the fourth encounter was different. It did not evoke fear or sorrow. Instead, it offered a glimpse of something far more elusive: peace. As he rode through the streets beyond the palace gates, Siddhartha saw a man unlike any other he had met. His robe was simple, his possessions few, yet his presence radiated tranquility. He walked with grace, unburdened by worry or desire. His eyes held no traces of suffering, only quiet understanding. Intrigued, Siddhartha turned to his charioteer. "Who is this man?" "He is a renunciant, my lord, a monk who has left behind worldly attachments in search of truth." The essence of renunciation. Siddhartha observed the monk closely. Here was a man who owned nothing, yet lacked nothing. Unlike the sick and the dying, he was not trapped in sorrow. Unlike the wealthy and powerful, he did not chase fleeting pleasures. He was free in a way that Siddhartha had never seen before. The prince had always been taught that happiness lay in material wealth, power, and indulgence. Yet, here stood a man untouched by suffering, not because he avoided it, but because he had transcended it. The thought struck Siddhartha like lightning. Perhaps freedom was not found in acquiring more, but in letting go. He began to ponder. What if liberation was not in escaping suffering, but in understanding its nature? What if attachment itself was the cause of all suffering? Could abandoning desire lead to true peace? These questions planted a seed, one that would soon grow into an unwavering determination. The promise of liberation. That night, as Siddhartha returned to the palace, the monk's image lingered in his mind. He could not forget the serenity in the man's face, the ease in his movements. For the first time, Siddhartha felt the pull of something greater than royalty, greater than pleasure, the pursuit of truth. He realized that suffering is not a punishment, nor is it an unavoidable curse, it is a condition caused by attachment. People cling to youth, yet they cannot stop aging. They grasp at health, yet sickness inevitably comes. They fight against death, yet it is the only certainty in life. But the monk had freed himself from this cycle. He had accepted impermanence, and in doing so, had found liberation. This realization struck Siddhartha deeper than any pain or fear he had ever known. He had seen the way forward. Transitioning to the next step. Siddhartha had learned what he needed to know. His heart was no longer bound by the illusions of wealth and pleasure. The path was clear. He, too, must leave behind his attachments and seek the truth. Soon, he would make his final decision, the night he would walk away from the palace, from his title, from everything he had ever known, to embark on his journey to enlightenment. 5. The fifth encounter, a night of awakening. The palace that once felt infinite now seemed unbearably small. Siddhartha Gautama, the prince who had once known only pleasure and abundance, now wrestled with a truth far greater than himself, the reality of dukkha, suffering, the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death that no one could escape. Each of his four encounters, the old man, the sick man, the corpse, and the wandering monk, had peeled away a layer of illusion, revealing the fragile nature of life. Though surrounded by luxury, Siddhartha felt the weight of impermanence pressing upon him. He had seen suffering, felt its presence, understood its inevitability, yet the world continued as if nothing had changed. Courtiers laughed, musicians played, his family spoke of royal affairs, but none seemed to acknowledge the truths he had witnessed. As the moon rose high above Kapilavastu, Siddhartha stood at the threshold of the greatest decision of his life. He had tasted the sweetness of human existence, and now he understood its bitter edge. Wealth, power, and attachments, none of these could shield one from suffering. If nothing was permanent, then what was the true purpose of life? A silent departure, the renunciation. That night, as everyone in the palace slept, Siddhartha knew what he must do. There was no hesitation, no doubt, only the steady pull of realization. His heart beat in sync with a calling deeper than royal duty, a calling toward awakening, Bodhi. Silently, he approached his wife, Princess Yasodhara, and his newborn son, Rahula. He watched them as they lay peacefully, untouched by the storm inside him. Siddhartha did not wake them. How could he explain the weight of his choice? Instead, he whispered a silent vow, promising that his search for truth would not be for himself alone, but for all beings trapped in the cycle of samsara, rebirth. He turned away. Renouncing wealth, title, and privilege, Siddhartha walked toward the unknown, toward the life of a wandering seeker. Channa, his loyal charioteer, waited with his horse, Kanthaka, at the edge of the palace gates. Siddhartha mounted, and under the veil of night, he rode beyond the city, beyond his past, beyond his identity as a prince. At the banks of the river Anoma, Siddhartha removed his royal garments, cutting away his hair, symbolizing the shedding of worldly attachment. He handed his jewelry and possessions to Channa, instructing him to return to the palace. Kanthaka, sensing the magnitude of this moment, let out a cry, a lament for the life they were leaving behind. And just like that, Siddhartha Gautama was no longer a prince. He was now a seeker, a monk, a man in pursuit of enlightenment. A new path, toward the truth. With no palace to return to, Siddhartha walked into the forest, embracing the uncertainty of his journey. He had abandoned status, security, and attachment, but in exchange, he had gained a profound freedom, the chance to seek the end of suffering, the path to nirvana. Thus began the life of the Bodhisattva, the awakened seeker, the man who would soon discover the profound truths that would one day become the foundation of Buddhism. Siddhartha's great renunciation was not an escape, but an act of courage, a commitment to finding the path beyond suffering. This moment marked the beginning of a 6-year journey, a path of extreme asceticism, meditation, and wisdom, leading ultimately to his enlightenment beneath the Bodhi tree. For now, the world slept. But soon, the world would awaken with him. Conclusion: a journey toward true happiness. Throughout this video, we have explored 4 profound encounters that changed the course of Siddhartha Gautama's life: the realization of aging, sickness, death, and the path to liberation. Each moment shattered an illusion, revealing the undeniable truth of impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. Youth fades, health deteriorates, and life itself is fleeting. Yet, in recognizing these realities, Siddhartha uncovered something even more powerful, a way beyond suffering. His awakening reminds us that happiness does not lie in external pleasures or temporary attachments. It is found in understanding life's impermanence and seeking deeper truth. The path to true fulfillment is not in clinging, but in letting go. This wisdom is as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. In a world consumed by desires and distractions, Siddhartha's journey urges us to reflect: what truly matters? How can we live with greater mindfulness, compassion, and inner peace? If this message resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on your own path. Are you searching for happiness in things that will inevitably change, or are you looking for something deeper? Before you go, don't forget to like, share, and comment to continue the conversation. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Breath of Dharma to join us on a journey of wisdom, mindfulness, and discovery. Let's walk this path together.